Hey son, welcome to Finnish Black Metal Review, but this time it's a band that it comes from the Swedish part of the country. Now people who know the history of Finland can know that it's quite a tricky one, but nevertheless these kind of things don't that much affect when it comes to metal music. Some bands have their 1 or 2 feet in one part of these different things, but there's a reason why some bands don't opt to go with an English name or, well, Finnish title. And one of them is this band, Ondfødt. And this is their third album called Norden. Now, some people might actually remember this band from Pietarsaari, because I've reviewed the previous album here on Rauta and even the debut album on some other sites or a site. And that being said, I'm somewhat familiar with the whole discography, at least when it comes to these full albums. Now, Ondfødt started with quite a nice debut album, Hexkunst, if I'm not mistaken, about the pronunciation and all that stuff. But it was only their 2019 sophomore album that really opened the tap to greatness, so to speak. Now, this is not a band that creates so much new things with its black metal. It's Swedish spoken, or should we say Swedish kind of a singing type of black metal, nodding very heavily to 1990s second wave black metal. It's melodic, it's aggressive, it's definitely dark, somewhat sinister and all that stuff, but let's be honest about it, there's not exactly anything original as such. For people who still worship the 90s like it never went away, this is absolutely good news. For people who kind of like to see nowadays black metal to be something else than just 1990s worship, it's not so much that good news part. Well, after Hexenkunst came this De Kallelse, which I mentioned, and that is indeed so far the best album the band has put out. Now, this duo has been continuing more or less on the same path with this album called Norden, which then again refers to northern parts of the world or just north. And this is a good album, but this is not as good as the previous ones. And, well, the previous one, maybe better than the first one. Kind of a roughly, more or less, same level. I'll try to explain why. And once again, this is not so simple, once again, because it really depends how you view the 1990s melodic black metal style in general, and also how you have enjoyed the previous albums by this very band. Now the thing here is, this album sounds good. When it comes to production or vocals, everything is pretty much top notch. In my opinion, it's kind of funny even that a band that is relatively small, coming from a rather small label, Immortal Frost Productions, and is not known worldwide as one of the bigger black metal names coming from Finland, actually has the kind of a production that could be compared to so many bigger bands, but with that difference that this is actually really good one. This is the stuff that bands in the 90s could only dream of. Well, most bands. I mean, there is a certain, feeling with their rather raw kind of a stuff and like that. But let's be honest about it. This is not, Dark Throne during its golden era. This is not Bathory when Bathory was still doing black metal albums and so forth. This is not about raw black metal, but the kind of a fast tempo stuff, even if it's not that all the time, and having these melodies and kind of a evil feeling there, right, with the music. So you really don't compare this kind of production with those bands that kind of opt for raw, more primitive type, but more on the school, say, bands like Marduk, Dark Funeral, Mödegryning, and stuff like that. So production-wise, this is really solid. And I could say very close to being 10 out of 10. I'm not going to say it's perfect, but it's really like near perfect anyway for this kind of music. And that counts for a lot of things. But what it doesn't really do is the music. And mind you, I'm not going to say anything negative in a big ways anyway about this album because there are no major flaws. Actually, hardly flaws at all. But there are some pointers which, in my opinion, separate this from the previous ones. And while I could be really, really simple things, it's not when we're talking about black metal. Now, I know there's a lot of people who kind of dislike when we're talking about more commercial aspects of the music. That is, being catchy, being memorable, and all that stuff. And every now and then somebody comes to remind me, hey, Jerry, why are you complaining about an album not being catchy? This is black metal. It's not supposed to be catchy and filled with hit songs and all that stuff. Yeah, I get it. But let's be honest about it. The things which separate so often the really good ones from the just okay ones is that you actually have killer riffs. The kind of hooks that just kind of latch into your skin and make you like, yeah, this is a banger. This is filled with, riffs and chorus parts or whatever melodies that really, kind of get stuck in my head and I look, yeah, I want to hum these melodies or riffs or whatever I'm doing. And that's how some albums become classics. And the ones that have just decent ideas don't become so much as a classic. And that's where, in my opinion, Norden kind of falls in between the ones that I mentioned, latter one, the not so good ones and the really good ones, because it's good, but none of these songs really get me going the same way as the previous ones. So while I'm trying to say this is good and solid album, it's not great. And for me, I couldn't find a single reason why none of these songs, none of these riffs basically got me going that far. And I gave this a multiple listens. I was expecting this to be kind of a grower. Like maybe it could just, after, I don't know, 3 or 5 spins later, I would be like, okay, now I'm getting it. But all the time I feel like, yeah, it's nice, it's solid, it's very easy to listen, and it almost catch me just, like, wow. But it doesn't. It's more like I'm very happy about it. I'm more like very content about it. But I don't feel like now I'm getting this CD on my car and driving around and shouting everybody from the window, like, yeah, hey, buy this one, this is so good. So, once again, what separates just good from the great, it's not so hard to just, draw the line. Now, once again, I want to emphasize that while this is being good, it's no need to be a negative joke. It's like, hey, this guy was so disappointed about it, because it's not about being disappointed unless I'm comparing to the previous one, which was, then again, really good, and in my opinion, in my books, so to say, beating many of the classics ones. This will be challenging them, and this will be beating some of them, but not as much as the previous one. So once again, it depends where you compare it to. If you're a new person coming to this band and haven't previously heard, you might be just blown away and say like, yeah, how come I have not heard about this band previously? This is good, man. Everything is very, very solid. And it's kind of like that. So I would say definitely give Ondfødt a listen. And it doesn't matter, in my opinion, in which order you would go to. If you haven't heard anything previously by this band, this is a very good starting point. And it's a solid album. It doesn't let you down. But it's not going to be a future classic in the same way as I think the previous ones will be. So I guess I'm kind of repeating myself here, but I just want to say it's a good but not a great album. And that's something that is just hard to digest for some people. But it doesn't matter what I think about it. I think you should give it a chance, and I should think you should enjoy it. At least the production is really solid. The vocals are good. It's just the riffs which are a little bit, unsurprising, I guess, would be the word. But give it a take, give it a look, give it a listen. It's a fun, good release. Yeah. Take care.